Pretty Dece, here we go. Facebook.com/Pretty D Show. It's time to geek out with Josh, your host.
What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. Welcome to Pretty Dece Director's Cut. This is officially episode 1 after our episode 0 pilot episode last time. We are back. We're going to talk some more movies, some more games. We're going to have lengthy discussions about each of them. And I'm joined by my buds again from last time. Ross is here. What's up, Ross?
Hello.
Hello. And Scott. What's up, Scott?
How's it going?
It's going good. Yeah, glad you guys are back. I think the first episode went well. People enjoyed it.
It was super fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. So this week we kind of listed out sort of a general plan for the episode. And one of the things that we talked about a bit in the past kind of few weeks and stuff, and has been kind of in the news a little bit sort of, is retro games. So that's kind of where I wanted to start today. NPR put out this story that was kind of just like a really like high level like view of like where retro gaming is, and they kind of hit on it because of the NES Classic and the SNES Classic, and like seeing these things selling out, and they kind of went and started to talk to people about it. And I'm not sure about you guys, but I saw like a bunch of people freaking out about like, oh my gosh, like this is the new hot craze. Everyone's going to buy up all these games. We're not going to be able to get anything anymore. And it was like the death of retro gaming. I saw a lot of people saying, I don't think that that's necessarily the case, but I think it's interesting that like everyone who grew up playing games, like who grew up with in NES or whatever, now has like the disposable income to be able to go spend hundreds of dollars on like crazy boxed copies of games, and or to also, you know, just buy these like, you know, Super NES retro things, and like that's like a thing that they're super into. So they actually talked to the owner of Pink Gorilla Games, which, Scott, is a place that you actually went. Like that was like your tie-in to the story.
Yeah, it was a super cool store. I really I hadn't been there before. It's in Seattle, Washington, which isn't super far from where I am. And I was listening to the story, and they said where it was. I'm like, oh my gosh, how have I never been here? And so I did take a trip up there last weekend just to check it out. And it was really like their selection for the store that I went to is in the International District. And, you know, it's not super huge. It's only, you know, 4 walls and a couple of standing racks for different things. But this the width and breadth of what they had. You know, they had Atari 2600, and they had Sega Saturn, and they had GameCube and Game Boy and Famicom and Super Famicom and Sega CD, and, you know, even that wasn't their entire collection. They have an additional store in another part of Seattle.
Oh, wow.
So just the you know, some game stores, used game stores, will only go back so far, or won't have kind of the more niche types of games and consoles available. And so one of the things I really appreciated about this store was just the variety of what they had. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think stores like this. So like there's a couple that have popped up around me that don't seem as good as this one. Like you showed me some pictures of this one, and it seemed like selection wise, and just like they had crazy like, you know, like Famicom stuff and things like that. It seemed like they had a really awesome assortment of stuff. The ones around me are definitely way more focused on being basically GameStops with just a little extra. So there's like the massive you know, PS4, Xbox One rows, and then they'll have some DVDs, and then they'll have some like older console stuff. Like those stores have definitely been popping up more and more. You can tell people are getting more and more into retro gaming kind of in general. And typically, unfortunately for me, or like at least the ones around here, like you can never find like super cool stuff. Like it feels like every time I go look, it's always like picked over. Like it's like, okay, look, there's like 50 sports games for the Genesis. I was like, okay, I don't really care about those.
Right. Right.
But they're still like super fun to go dig through. And yeah, like that's, oh man, I love going through these. I was actually in one of these stores to get to just today, because I had to go pick up an AC adapter for my Genesis, because I couldn't find my original Genesis AC adapter.
Nice.
And it actually just stopped deciding to look. I was like, I know it's in a tub somewhere, but it's just easier just to go buy a replacement. So that's where we ended up. But yeah, like I really love these stores, and I love you know, I've definitely collected games for a long time. Like I think from like starting to play games, I've also collected games, because I've never been a person who like sells games back to GameStop. You know, I've always been like trying to amass games. Even as a kid, it was like I would buy up game, like even after we'd moved on from like the Genesis and that area and stuff, I would buy stuff when I was in like flea markets and stuff. I would constantly want like more and more of those, and that's just the collection that I've like amassed since then, and never really stopped. Like I've always just kind of been like collecting games and collecting consoles, and it's gotten to a ridiculous point at this point. Like I have way too many, just tons and tons of dumb stuff. But like it's always kind of been my hobby, so it's interesting and like maybe vaguely worrisome that more people are like picking it up every single day.
And I think it makes sense. You know, I was thinking about like where has this come from? Why is this? Because it does seem, even with the the NES Classic, the SNES Classic, that Nintendo's always or very recently been trying to bring older titles forward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of the Wii. I didn't have a Wii, so the Virtual Console.
Yep.
Being able to go back and play older games, it's a definite audience that Nintendo continues to try to cater to. And I do think there is, that aspect of collecting, the games that we grew up with are classics now. Like they're 25 years old, or
right?
They're 30 years old. Like and so that collecting aspect, whether you're collecting to have one that's mint in box, or you're collecting to be a player, the 8-year-olds who loved Super Mario Brothers on the NES are now 30-year-olds
Yep.
with disposable income that they can spend on things. And I the other thing I was thinking about is, well, why hasn't that necessarily translated to, it's not like the Nintendo was the first ever video game that was ever played, but I'm wondering if there isn't something about, as good as some of the old Atari games were, or the old Apple IIe games, I think Oregon Trail has a special place in a lot of people's hearts.
That's definitely true. Yeah.
I was going to try to ford that river every time.
But I think I feel like the answer that I was coming up with, or the thought that I kept falling back to, was I feel like the Nintendo era, that 8-bit era, was the first time those are the first games for me that I really felt immersed in.
Yeah.
Like I would go and play those. I would play Battletoads till I couldn't keep my eyes open any longer. And I was fully immersed in that game. Whereas something like Kaboom, I sent you a picture of Kaboom from the Atari. I loved that game. You got to play with the paddles and catch the bombs before they hit the ground. Was fun, but it wasn't ever anything that I put that amount of time in, that I was that absorbed in.
I think with the NES, it was the first time that you could look at it and understand what was trying to be represented without having to imagine it, right? like
you didn't have to squint as hard at the
right. Like you still had to squint a little bit, but at least there were enough colors, and you could put enough art on the screen that you didn't have to say, that square, that's the knight. Those 5 squares, that's the dragon. Like you know what I mean? Like there was a little bit more there, because I mean the Atari and like gaming existed like you said, like long before the NES, but the NES was definitely giant explosion of it where it became this pop culture thing. And yeah, like, I mean, like what was the thing that made it different that time? I think that's part of it, is like the visuals and having just a bit more like art to hang your hat on rather than just these blocky things. And I honestly think that like Mario went a long way for that, like having a character and like having this little system, this little box have a personality because of that. I think that like made a lot of people fall in love with it in a way that maybe they didn't with their Pong consoles or with their, you know, Ataris or whatever it might have been. Because you know, before that you had arcade stuff that people also hold very fondly today. Like, you know, like Pac-Man, people still love Pac-Man because, again, you have Pac-Man, right? Even though on the screen he maybe isn't a lot to look at, you have the side of the console where you have cool looking, you know, hand-drawn Pac-Man and stuff. So I think it comes down to that like art and being able to like, you know, not have to just imagine everything. You can see it on the screen.
Yeah. Well, and that idea of the video game, like we played video games at pizza parlors and bowling alleys, but now this was like, look just like that, except it was in my living room. Like that was a big deal. That was because even pole position, like I owned pole position for the Atari, and it looked cool, but it didn't look like the arcade cabinet. Whereas Mario was like that's what a arcade video game looked like.
That's a hard thing to even imagine nowadays, that like it was a big deal when you could play something that was comparable to the arcades at home. And that it was a massive deal. But like right now, like that's such a weird thing because arcades are this like super specialized, like you can play DDR or the thing where you climb into it and it's a giant spaceship, and like those are your options at the arcade, or like pinball. Like it's the things you can't do at home. But yeah, like there was a very real point where like they were competing like head to head essentially with the stuff that you could do at home. But you know, I recorded a Pretty Dece episode that went up yesterday. That kind of is in the same vein of like people that are getting on board the retro gaming train, and that's the company Hyperkin, which they've been around forever, and they're a company that is based entirely around this nostalgia that people have for stuff, because their entire business is just retro gaming and making like replacement controllers and making consoles that play these old games and stuff. And it's fascinating that like you can have this entire like market industry pop up based around these old video games that like Hyperkin didn't create these things in the first place. They just make these consoles that let you keep playing them. And Hyperkin is putting out two things that I wanted to touch on. So, you know, I did the Pretty Dece about them, so go check that out in the video version if you want to know. But just briefly, they're putting out a replica Duke controller. I'm not sure if you guys had heard that. So the original Xbox that came with the giant controller.
The mothership?
Yes. Came with this controller that's like the size of a dinner plate. Takes up your entire living room. Everyone called it the Duke. And very quickly, Microsoft replaced that controller. They came out with the like S revision of the controller, which then like the S revision of the controller eventually kind of morphed into what we have now for the Xbox controller. Like that's what they ended up iterating on. But the Duke is this like weird leftover piece of history, and Hyperkin is putting one of those out again. It's basically an exact replica of the Duke. Except it has the like shoulder buttons now, so they put shoulder buttons onto it
instead of the black and white button.
Yeah, well, no, it still has those too. So I'm not exactly sure. I think those
really?
are the like start select or something, and then it has the shoulder buttons. But it also they made the center where the Xbox logo was an LCD screen, and when you press on the button, it like shows the boot up animation of the Xbox.
Oh, fantastic! Do you remember how big that medallion was?
Yeah, no,
that medallion was the size of like. Was bigger than a silver dollar.
Yeah.
It was ginormous. I remember, so I had the PlayStation, was the first console I owned, that wasn't like a handheld. And a buddy of mine got the Xbox. And so we were going back and forth between PS2 and Xbox and all of that when we were in grade school.
Nice. Doing
grade school level arguments for the pros and cons of each, I'm sure.
Definitely.
And that freaking controller, it was exactly like pretending to drive with a dinner plate.
Yeah.
Except in video game form. It was nuts.
It really was. And like, I cannot overstate
my
how
hands
large.
weren't big enough to reach where it needed to reach. Because it had the offset thumbsticks and things like that. But like, I couldn't hold the controller, hit the triggers, and like change weapons with Y for original Halo. So I had to bump it with my nose.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I was punching myself in the face while I was trying to learn how to play first-person shooter for the first time.
Yeah, I think the fact that this controller can come back and people can be hyped about it, and honestly, I'm kind of hyped about it because, like, I really liked the Duke. Like, I didn't have an Xbox when they first came out. I've of course since bought one, but like when I was a kid, my cousin had one, and I was definitely like on the PS2 train. And going over to his house and playing Xbox was like a special thing, and he had the like Duke controllers, and I remember liking them. So I'm excited to get my hands on one of these. But yeah, I also remember like everyone hating them, and the sheer fact that this can be a thing that can happen in 2018 shows just how popular like retro gaming and like the power of like nostalgia for these things truly is.
Yeah.
And then
sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just want the one thing about Hyperkin that I'm super tempted. I feel like it's going to be a 2018 thing at some point. The Retron 5.
Yep.
That will go back and play Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Famicom, Super Famicom, Sega Gen. I mean, Mega Drive. The list of games that this thing will play is pretty great. It's an emulator that will allow you to plug in the original controllers of those games.
Yep.
I'm really tempted.
It's all like Amazon based too. Like, it's got a cool like menu for them where you can like turn cheats on and stuff, and like drop your save states and stuff. Like it is definitely like the best one of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on it. I just
no, that's a perfect example. Like I think that like yeah, Hyperkin has really been stepping it up because my opinion of them used to be like they were kind of crappy, right? Like all the things that they put out were like okay at best, and I think really with the Retron 5 was my first time of like, oh no, like this is a legit piece of hardware and people are really into it. And then yeah, I think the Duke, all the pictures I've seen of it so far seem amazing. Seems like they're really putting the correct amount of work into it. And then the last thing, the thing that I'm like, the piece of hardware that I'm like most excited for this year is also coming out from them. It is they're calling it right now the Ultra Game Boy, but I don't think that'll be the final name because of course it has Game Boy in it. But basically, it is a redesigned Game Boy Pocket. So it's going to be all aluminum. It's going to have a backlit screen. It'll still play Game Boy games. It'll have like a screen where it'll have a dial on the side where you can kind of change the hue of the screen. So like turn it from like blue to green or whatever. And it has like a rechargeable battery, plugs in via like USB-C. It has an SD card slot where you can export chiptune music that you make. So it'll also apparently they're working on the ability to ship with a version of Little Sounds DJ, which is like the main application people use for making chiptunes on a Game Boy. It'll ship with that on the system, like just built into the system, and then you can spit your chiptune that you make out onto the SD card. It sounds amazing, and this is gonna be like this like kind of like nice looking, like nice feeling, heavy duty like aluminum Game Boy. So apparently it's gonna come out this year for like $100, and I'm like so excited to get one. Because that's something like, I'm not like a big like music maker, but I really like dabbling with those types of like sequencers and stuff. And I've always thought about getting an LSDJ cartridge. So this would be like 2 birds, 1 stone for that. Which sounds super fun. Yeah, so lots of fun retro gaming stuff going on in 2018 here. Also, Scott, you and I both purchased a really crazy item, I think, for most people, but we both bought a Frame Meisters. We just both happened to end up with one of these, or actually, I got one for Christmas, and you bought one. Do you want to explain to the people what a Frame Meister is if they aren't aware?
So I'm still not sure I can explain it very well. I know when I was trying to explain it to my partner, and the additional, I'm having to order it from Japan. Like I feel like I'm slowly sliding further down
Sure.
the nerd rabbit hole. But anyway, it's a box,
Yep.
and it essentially converts older input signals. It allows for an output to an HD TV. If you just plug your whatever Nintendo, Sega, Genesis, all the way up through the PlayStation 2,
Yeah.
Xbox. Before there was an HDMI out on our gaming systems, we had component or composite or S-video, and a lot of TVs don't even have the capability of accepting that kind of signal anymore. And also the ones that do, the HD TVs that will accept some of these older types of signals, doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
You plug it in and it's like grainy, and there's this weird ghosting that happens, and there's a lot of lag. And so the FrameMeister does as near as I can tell, it does a really good job. The output from these older systems is never going to measure up to the current gen consoles, but just good enough to enjoy and play. I think it's really been working out well for me to this point. I've only really I have a GameCube with a Game Boy player attached to it, and I've really been enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, as have I. I've just kind of been getting into mine, but so essentially the thing, it's just an upscaler, right? It takes a video signal in, and it spits out a higher resolution video signal. So yeah, I think everyone has had that experience. Or if you're into gaming and you pull out your N64 and all right, we're gonna play this thing. It's awesome. You plug it into your HD TV and you're like, this looks way worse than I remember. That's partly because you're looking back with rose-colored glasses, but it's also because it does look worse. It's just, it was that console was designed to be on a CRT TV. It was designed to kind of be a fuzzier display, so things would kind of, morph correctly. And then, you have this ghosting now, and you have all these blurriness that's going on, or even worse, some TVs literally can't handle a signal that low, because these consoles spit out weird, crazy signals sometimes that aren't conforming to a standard. So it kind of solidifies all that, upscales it, and not for us to brag. This is for me telling you how crazy we are. This thing costs $250 to $300, depending on where you're looking at it and getting it, and and again, insane lengths people go to play these games and stuff today, but I think the sliding hill that you just talked about with your partner, the point where I hit that on mine, it was explaining it first of all was the thing. I was like, that's this thing. It costs $300, and it makes games look a little bit better. And then the end result, the selling point for me for getting it was then being able to spit that signal out into an Elgato and record that stuff. Which is always super fun. But then you get into the okay, now I need the best cables to plug into this thing. And then you go
the rabbit hole keeps going. I feel like I'm not sure there's a bottom.
I don't think there is. So the next step of that rabbit hole, which I have gone down now, is getting what are called SCART cables for these things. And SCART is a European video cable format, video signal format, that's pure RGB. So where here we had cables where they sent all of the video over a single cable, this has them all split out into 3 separate channels. So it's a little bit more clear, a little bit more crisp, and the image looks a lot better. But of course, we didn't have any TVs here that ran on SCART. However, some of our consoles, because they were just kind of direct ports over from Japan and from Europe, can run SCART cables. So you can do a Genesis, for example, SCART out of it, and it works perfectly fine. So if you go buy these SCART cables and then you go buy a SCART converter to plug into the FrameMeister, you can get the best possible signal supposedly out of these things, which is definitely what the crazy mad scientist table beside me right now is dedicated to. So yeah, that's the current adventure is all the crazy SCART goodness. And then even from there, you can get like super high end, like homemade, like shielded SCART cables and all this wild insaneness. But I think maybe I've hit my limit on how deep I'm going to go for now. I think SCART cables is where I'm going to stop. We're going to see where that goes.
It has been fun too, just learning about the upscaling and aspect ratios, how to get the most out of this old equipment that we have has been kind of fun. And there are a lot of for people who are interested, there are a lot of YouTubers out there. If you just type in XRGB Mini into YouTube, you will get any number of channels devoted to retro gaming. So there's some pretty interesting. It seems to be a community that's really wanting to share some passion.
Yep.
And so it's been fun kind of checking those things out.
Yeah, I'll shout out the one channel that I've been using the most, which is My Life in Gaming. You probably have seen.
I was gonna say you should check that out.
Yeah, those guys are incredible. First of all of their videos are amazing, because you can tell these guys are like amazing editors. They're really good at footage capture. They're really good at editing and putting stuff together. They're really good at kind of telling a story. And they do these like 101, 201, whatever series where they break down like how do you get the best picture out of whatever console, or tell me everything about the FrameMeister. Like they get really in depth on these very technical topics as it comes to retro games. And like I've literally watched their videos and have taken notes like I'm in school. Like, okay, here I'm going to write down all the things I need to know or go look up as I'm watching them. And like they've been invaluable with figuring some of this stuff out. So definitely check out My Life in Gaming because it's a fantastic channel.
For sure.
So yeah, that is gaming. That's retro gaming. So I'm excited to kind of I'm going to definitely do like a big retro gaming stream at some point, and hopefully do that on the reg now that I've got the FrameMeister like updated and everything, and it's all ready to go. It's in English finally. 'Cause that's the other fun thing. Since these things are coming from Japan, like the initial settings, at least on mine, all Japanese, like completely. Yep. And then they have upgradable firmware, which is really nice. It's super easy to do. But mine apparently was like on such an old firmware that there wasn't even like a setting to toggle it to English. I guess that was a thing at some point. Mine was just all Japanese. So I had to update it to an English version of the firmware to be able to actually even know what the settings I was pressing were. Because the remote that comes with it, again, all in Japanese. I ordered an overlay that I could stick on top of the remote to actually see what the buttons did. So, yeah.
I'm still sticking to the Google images of the remote in English, trying to like, okay, that's all right, 2 down and 1 over that. Okay, that's the button I want.
Yep, I definitely am there. Luckily, with the new version of the firmware, it didn't seem like this with the old one as I was poking around it. With the new one, you can basically just press the menu key and then get to everything you need within it. Like the buttons are just shortcuts for what you can get inside the menu key.
Yeah.
So, yeah, wild and crazy. So, gentlemen, let's jump into the next portion of our show here. And we wanted to talk about, we kind of did like best of the year for 2017 in the last episode. This episode, we wanted to focus on like what we're looking forward to in 2018. So now that we are in the new year, what kind of on the horizon are we looking forward to? So, in anything, games, movies, whatever. So let's start in the category of games since we are on the game front. So Ross, hit me with some games that you're interested in. Let's just start throwing games out and have discussions about them because there's tons on the horizon.
Seems like 2017 set the stage for a really solid year in gaming. In 2018, it's hopefully not going to let up anytime soon. At least not with the scale, the like name power, and just the variety that's going to be coming out. One that I've been excited to see. I don't think I'm ever going to play it.
Okay.
Because I tried to play the first one and I never really got into it. Was Red Dead Redemption.
Okay.
And I'm eager to see what that looks like, just because I don't have a ton of time to drop into any one particular game. but I am really excited for those people that do, and then treating it like a VOD where I can like come home and watch like, oh, the next level or the next the next side quest and things like that. But I didn't know if you guys had heard any news on this. The last thing I had heard about it before I looked it up to try to put get ready for the rundown was that it was delayed at one point because wasn't it supposed to come out in the fall this year?
Yeah, I think it got pushed back. I was gonna look it up and see if I could find. Yeah, it was supposed to come out I think earlier in the year than maybe it's going to now. I believe is what it was. Trying to see what the good old internet has to say about it.
So, because it did get pushed, but I think it got pushed for good reasons. Like they weren't making their timetable, and it was taking a little bit longer for the development, and it gets it away from a lot of. Like 2017 had a lot of like heavy hitters coming out, and I think that if Red Dead pushes it back a little bit, I think it's slated for like a May release, early or late spring.
Yeah, it's
released right now, and that would do better than trying to have it go up against some of the larger games that came out towards the end of this year.
Yeah, it was originally going to come out the latter half of 2017, and now it's going to be Q1/Q2 of 2018. And Rockstar is like notorious for game delays. They essentially like shoot for something, and then if it's not done, they push it back, and they have no problem doing that. It seems like
So we're going a little bit out of order from what I initially thought, but I wanted to bring it up because it's really refreshing to see somebody push something because it's not ready.
Yeah.
In the land of having your consumer base feel like your beta testers, except that where they're paying for the privilege of doing said beta testing. It's nice to see that they're pushing it back because they had some sort of delay or things weren't quite right and they weren't quite tweaked the way it was. I think a solid first person or a solo one player game is needed just for some variety. I mean, I really love the shared world games and things like that, but I really just would like a story driven one player game coming up.
Yeah, I think that that's something we get like less and less of in games because games are going more towards the route of your games where you devote all your time to, and they're multiplayer, massively multiplayer, or they're
games as a service.
Right, yeah, or they're more like esports focused. But yes, exactly, games as a service. So just to have like a game come out and say, here it is, it's done, like just play it all, is kind of refreshing. Because yeah, I mean, like I think that's a thing the industry is trying to figure out, and I don't think that they'll figure it out in 2018 either. But the whole concept of like, what does it mean when a game's done? What is a release date? How do we deal with early access games? Because, when early access, quote unquote, first started, I think a lot of people just decided, like, I'm just going to wait till it's out. And then you realize that, like, that doesn't mean anything anymore, Like, I'm insanely into Fortnite right now. I'm completely addicted to Fortnite, which is, quote unquote, an early access game. That game is, at least according to them, not out, even though they're selling boxed copies on, Xbox and PS4. And even though I can put tons of money into it, hundreds of dollars into it if I wanted to right now, and it's incredibly polished, and like, there's a ton of a ton of content for it and stuff, like, the concept of early access is such a weird thing. And yeah, like the idea of what a game is and when it's done and stuff is very weird. So having Red Dead come out and have it just be a single player experience, you play through it, and it's not trying to like sell you on this is your new life game, is a nice thing to have.
So, and I wanted to lead off with that one because others are just kind of like the games that I'm side-eyeing and not really sure what is going to come of it. So hopefully,
so on the Red Dead front,
I just don't know if I'm going to be able to play that.
That's fair. So Red Dead, the first Red Dead Redemption is one of my favorite games of all time. It's definitely my favorite game of last generation, and I'm kind of in general like a Western fan, and this game scratched that itch entirely. It was an incredible story. It was an open world that was super fun to be in and explore, and everything about that game was great for me. I loved everything about it. Scott, was that a game that you played at all? Were you into Red Dead Redemption whatsoever?
You know, I didn't play it until it had been dead. I didn't really get in. Super tail end of my 360 experience. Played it a little bit. I do have it downloaded on the Xbox One, and I think the thing that I'm looking forward to about that game is the multiplayer co-op. To be able to sit in a shack with your buddy next to you, fending off cougars that are trying to kill you, or tromping across whatever landscape, kind of that GTA style of we're not really doing anything other than just hanging out in a video game and pretending to be cowboys. I think is going to be a really fun part of that game. So it's one that I'm certainly looking forward to.
Yeah, when you sell it that way, I'm way more into it than I thought I was going to be, because I definitely really only care about Red Dead for the story. But yeah, like the idea of like we're just pretending to be cowboys and it's kind of not doing anything sounds like a blast. And I mean, GTA Online that came out with GTA 5 is this like insane, massive, like life of its own thing that I kind of didn't see coming. Like it continues to get content, it continues to get updates, and yeah, people have turned that into their life game, their game as a service, which, maybe the same thing will happen for Red Dead. We'll have to see. But all right, so other games that are on the list. You have one on your list that I'm very much looking forward to. And unfortunately, Ross, since you don't have a PS4, this is one that you won't be able to play firsthand. But that is Spider-Man coming out on the PS4. Man, I'm so pumped about this game. It seems to like harken back to like the PS1, PS2 era Spider-Man games, which were so good. We've gotten a little away from those, but Spider-Man games have been good before. I even really liked there was the game Amazing Spider-Man on. I guess that was last generation now at this point, right? Like it's been out that long. I think I played it on 360. I may have played it on PS4. We'll see, who remembers? But that game wasn't great, but it was still like super fun to fly around as Spider-Man. And this game, it seems like they're hitting all the right boxes. They're pulling in kind of like newer Spider-Man characters and stories and stuff, which is really exciting, instead of just rehashing the exact same old origin story stuff over and over again. So I'm really pumped for Spider-Man on the PlayStation.
Which I always liked about the original ones, like the original Spider-Man games for the PlayStation. It's like you didn't go through any origin story stuff. It wasn't tied to movie. It was just a Spider-Man adventure. Like you knew who Spider-Man was. They didn't go through any sort of explanation about why this dude is running up the sides of buildings. It's just it's implied that you know what is going on in this universe.
Right.
It feels like this is going to be that. Like, Spider-Man is great. We're going to introduce you to some obscure characters, but not the main hero.
Which is fantastic. Like, I mean, everyone who signs up for nowadays for a Spider-Man movie or Spider-Man game, they know what they're getting into. Like, no one needs to see, like, and then he was bitten by a radioactive spider, and then he saw his uncle die, and he learned that responsibility matters, right? Like, everyone gets it. We're good. Let's move on. And Insomniac Games are fantastic developers. Like, those guys put out ridiculous games. Like, so good. So just give me, like, an ounce of Ratchet and Clank in Spider-Man. That's all I need. Just drain a little bit of that quality into this game, and I'm super excited.
I think one of the things that has stuck with me, in thinking about, when we were talking about, looking forward to 2018, I got to thinking about, well, what do I remember from E3? What's really stood out and stuck with me for these last few months? And I'm not sure that Spider-Man would make any kind of top list of things that I'm for sure gonna drop some cash on, but I do. Things that have stuck with me from E3 is a pretty short list, and one of them for sure is just the character movement in that E3 presentation. Mm-hmm. Like, it was just so. I mean, the way that the player character was moving around the space, and the different combat and the different ways that Spider-Man was interacting. I mean, we've all seen the cartoons where he shoots a web and he pulls down a side of a wall, or, you know, uses a big iron beam to take out but to actually be the force that is making your player character do those things, to have the button combinations and it looks intimidating a little bit, like, am I really going to be able to do all those things? And B, just so cool, like, this is a video game of the things that I've seen Spider-Man doing for years, and now I'm actually going to be able to have control and to do it myself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the movement of Spider-Man was perfect in that demo. He doesn't bound, he bounds around. He doesn't like methodically walk around like Batman does. You know, he jumps from point A to point B, and he like, you know, like flicks here and there, and it's perfect. They like really nailed the difference in Spider-Man versus other heroes, and that had me really excited. So that's, and you know, another just like single player focused game that we're getting this year, which I think is really cool.
Yep. It'll be great to see if they can do all of the player movement without quick time events as well. I'm looking forward to that and have it be a little bit what I enjoyed about the previous ones was the personal flavor that you could give it. Because I always liked, like, you could make your hands into like web spikes and it made your punches harder, but it like slowed you down.
Definitely.
So you had to like really think about how you were going to approach the enemies. You couldn't use any of your wall climbing abilities at that point. So everything had to be like jumping. And so I'm hoping that it brings a little bit of that into it. So the way that I would play the character and the powers that I would choose to use aren't anywhere near what you would choose to use. It's not just like, oh, hit B for you to like dodge, duck, dip over the beam, and there you go.
Definitely. Yeah, I hope that that's the case. I also hope it has a ton of like unlockable costumes, like in addition to it, because that's always one of my favorite things about Spider-Man games is the plethora of unlockables. Like the PS1 games were really good about that. You know, eventually you could unlock the Amazing Bagman, where he's wearing the Fantastic Four suit with the plastic bag or the paper bag over his head and stuff, or like Cosmic Spider-Man and just ridiculous things like that.
How are you feeling about the white suit?
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I really like when a game will put their own spin on the Spider-Man costume if they do it in a way that like maintains the general look of Spider-Man. And I think that they've nailed that, where they've created a look where when you see it, you know it's from that game, right? You understand it's from their game, but it still looks like Spider-Man. It looks like kind of an updated modern take on the Spider-Man suit. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's my wallpaper at work right now. It's so cool.
Nice.
In fact. So yeah, I'm excited.
So it'll be fun to see what they do with that. I think the superhero movies have really taken off, but there haven't been a lot of solid superhero games. There have been some that have tried and kind of missed the mark, but they've always been movie adaptations, right? Like,
yeah.
Like you said, the Amazing Spider-Man, like it was solid, but it was kind of weird at the same time. I remember there's a lot of like genetic mutants in that one.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand why. But it'll be fun to get back into that player fantasy of being a superhero that has a storied past, right? Like your Batmans and your Supermans and things like that.
You know, I really don't think we've had a big budget, people care about it superhero video game really since the Arkham games with Batman. You know, like you know, that's not tied to a movie, that isn't just some like kind of cash in for a film, which doesn't even happen very often anymore. But this feels like the continuation of like what they built with the Arkham games, of like, we're going to tell our own story, we're going to create our own version of Batman and the whole world of Batman. It seems like the same thing is going on here.
And hopefully it doesn't go quite as off the rails. I got a little disappointed with Batman later, of like, didn't play the Amazing Tank Man. I signed up to be Batman. But that's fine. I'd kind of forgotten about that game, that Arkham Knight.
Yeah, they put out. I think they went too far with those because, there was Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight, Arkham Origins. Yeah,
lots of Arkham going on.
Yep.
And that was. Yeah, the first one was good. The second one was good open world, and then it got weird.
Yeah,
I played all of them, and then I don't know. Either I am having a terrible memory now, or it did not leave the lasting impression that
maybe a bit of both.
Enter Electro did, which I haven't played in how many years? I was like 13.
Yeah, and that one's still one that like you remember all the bits and pieces of it and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But while we're still on single player games, I don't know if this is true or if I just picked the wrong site to read because I didn't think it was coming out this soon.
Okay.
Which is The Last of Us 2.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the release date of that is.
And so I checked a couple different sources and it said it is slated for 2018. I'm not sure when, but I just remember how earth-shattering that game was, and I still haven't played it because I at one point had this pipe dream of being able to afford both a Microsoft platform and a Sony platform. And I'm still keeping that alive just so I don't fall into despair, but I don't think that's going to happen.
It might happen one day. Who knows?
One day. But I am, again, looking forward to that, even just watching somebody play it, and hopefully they break it up into like episodes so that I know what's going on.
Yeah,
Looking at you, Scott. Looking at you.
I feel the eyes in the back of my head. Yeah.
Yeah, there are no like release dates on their Wikipedia page or anything like that. It's kind of shocking how limited their Wikipedia entry is for Last of Us Part 2.
So, because I think it takes, it follows the young girl forward.
Yeah.
From the last one, and again, I don't know what happened in that one. I purposely tried not to, just in the hopes that I could experience it fresh one day. So I'm sure people out there probably know a lot better what has gone on. I just remember how it really rocked people to have a personal connection to characters in a video game versus kind of the wanton, throw lives away nature of video games.
Yeah. And
to like feel like punched in the stomach when you lose somebody in your little team and things like that. Makes a game really special, and it seemed like they did that in the first one. Be interesting to see if they can do that in the next one if it does come out this year. But I'm looking forward. I guess the overarching theme so far is that I'm really looking forward in the game that I could play by myself and then roll up and like play with you guys or play with other people. Like a little bit more variety in my games. There've been, whether it's been self-imposed or industry imposed over the last like 3 or 4 years, it's been a lot of service games as a service that I've been playing, and not. I would like to get back to a single player game where I care about the character. I'm looking at you, 343. Looking at you. There's a reason I had the whole Halo canon memorized, because I didn't think you were going to kill it, and then you did.
and then you did.
Then you did.
Speaking of games that are kind of like that, how are you guys feeling about Anthem as far as, so that's a game that is like trying to at least tell you that it's going to have a really good story and you're going to love it and you're going to get invested in the world. Then also you're going to play co-op with all your friends and it's going to be basically Destiny. I'm personally very skeptical about that game still. I'm not sure if you guys are like stoked for it or where you land on it.
I think I was not alone in watching that trailer at E3 thinking, wow, this is going to be like the Iron Man flying and the, very, I thoughts that I had while watching the trailer were the visuals of this game look really cool. The script is just as terrible as Destiny's reveal trailer was at E3. Almost identically terrible.
What gun did you get, fella?
Oh my gosh, look at this great gun that I got. And so I was really pretty pumped for it. And then EA had the second half of the year that they had. And yeah, I have certainly cooled on Anthem. I'm definitely going to be in a wait and see. I mean, I think the number of $60 titles that I'm going to be able to throw down for this year is going to be, kept to a conservative number, and that one's definitely going to have to be on the wait and see list.
Yeah, it was very pretty in its debut trailer for me, but I like it from even that jump. It felt so much like they were just attempting to pull like the best parts of like 3 or 4 different games and not making anything unique. It was like let's make the flying like Iron Man, kids like that, and let's make the loot system like Destiny because that seems real popular. And it just felt like they were kind of like mishmashing kind of stuff together and not making their own world. So I hope I'm wrong about that because BioWare usually is great about world building and about character development and stuff. So hopefully that comes through, and I just wasn't seeing that because it was too busy telling me how cool their gun was they got. But I'm skeptical, and I think that I hope EA has learned their lesson with the whole like the whole like loot box debacle and stuff like that. But this also seems like a game that's just rife for exploitative DLC to be thrown in,
Oh, for sure. Oh, you don't like leveling up? Here you go.
Right. Or like, hey, what if you paid an extra $10 and got these 5 boxes that might have some cool guns in them, and sometimes those things are fine in games, but typically EA does a really bad job of it.
Well, and I do think it is going to be really, but no matter what, I think it's going to be an interesting story to watch it unfold. I think because of the death of Mass Effect, and I do kind of wonder if EA really needs a win outside of sports games. That when's the last time they really hit one out of the park and it was just a massive, well accepted. I think they have a little bit of a hole to dig out, and so that's partly too. I'm kind of skeptical that it's going to be a 2018 game. I mean, I think at this point, the time and effort it's going to take to really come out with a game that's going to grab the size of audience that they're wanting. Is it really something that they're going to be able to go from that trailer that we watched at E3 last year to a fully ready to release game in the fall of 2018? I don't know.
Yeah. And I think that it hinges on, like you said, the world building.
Yeah.
That has to make. So there's a couple games out there on the market already that are kind of like this, right? Like The Division gave it a shot. Destiny is very much the flagship of that genre, and it has to feel different enough. It can't be enough to have a wizard, a ninja, and a tank, right?
Right.
Like you're going to have to make it feel different. You're going to have to give me meaning in the world that is scratching an itch that I can't get elsewhere, because, like, not to go all cadre, but you don't have a lot of time to grind through like similar platforms. You're looking for a new fix or a new hit of something, even if it's similar. It needs to be different enough and allow for different play styles to emerge out of it, which is what I really liked about BioWare back in the day, in that like I would watch a buddy of mine play Knights of the Old Republic after I had dropped like 3,000-4,000 hours into it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I played through that game so much, I had like the dialogue memorized. But watching somebody new play it, it's like they're using powers that you didn't use, they're using weapons and party layouts and things like that. And I think maybe bring a little bit of the retro BioWare back into a multiplayer shared experience. That could be something really special if they're allowed and if they take the time to explore that.
Yep.
Especially with the way it did look at that E3 trailer of like the Ranger and then that dude in the, like, who doesn't want to be the guy that gets to come in halfway through a fight and like, oh yeah, like I got this mortar this weekend, I'm gonna go grab that real quick, I'll be back. and you just like bring the rain from the sky. Like that is a power fantasy that isn't going to be scratched by too many other games, but you have to allow the player to like fill that out in the way that they want. There's arguments for other games maybe making those paths a little bit too channelized, and I think that finding the little tributaries of, well, I liked this flavor, and I get to bring it together, of play style is something that isn't quite out there right now. That's my little ramble on Anthem of like, I want it to be there, but you're gonna have to give me customization options that make it so that even if we choose like the same mech, I can deck it out in the way that I want to, and we can do something completely different.
Yeah, it needs to be that you feel like you have some sort of authorship over your look and over your character as a whole, because that's the whole thing that they're selling in their single player games is you have tailored this character to your exact specifications with his face that you created and all of the choices that you made along the way. So throwing that into a multiplayer format, it needs to be with my look, with my suit that I made, all my color choices, my guns, and all that stuff. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then, like, the world, like you said, just looked like they tied different things together. Oh, like what, robot dinosaurs?
Yeah, right, yeah. It's like,
all right, so we're going to have robot dinosaurs and Iron Man, like aliens. Everybody loves aliens, right? Will Smith will do some lines. It'll be great. So maybe they'll find their identity in this year. It wouldn't make me sad to see it get pushed and then to have this be their like world building year. You remember how Bungie back in the day used to do drop the intel, like their website, it would say like incoming intel on one of the races, and it wouldn't give you like their powers. It was just like written in the world narrative of we picked up this, and it was like hazy gif of an elite, and you didn't know it was an elite, or you didn't know it was the colony race and things like that. Like maybe have it written in the world as though you're learning it with the central command or something. That would be kind of fun, and have it tailored towards that this year versus a like rollout of everything and like, let me tell you about this world. Like, no, like just set the stage and allow us to fill the world, I think, because isn't that what those games are supposed to be about? Versus a like either script the world entirely and let me experience it as though I would have moved that way, or put the framework there and allow me to put the clay on my experience in that world in whatever way I want.
Sure.
Don't make it this like halfway in between of like, we're allowing you to customize, but only like 2 things. Like you can't wear a hat. I hope that's okay. or you can put the hat on your character or take it off. Whoa, it's your own story. Yeah. So that one I've been trying to think about Anthem, like how I felt about it, because I knew we were going to talk about this, and then it's come up a couple times with the recent E3 loot box thing, and I think I'm just tired of loot boxes in general, and so if it's in there, like,
see,
maybe they don't need me to be playing that game.
I'm in a weird place with them because they're addictive, right? So like you have the feeling of enjoyment when you open them. So I like that I have in certain games, I like that I have a incentive for continued play. So like when I play Overwatch, for example, like, Overwatch is super fun in and of itself, but I like that then I know like, oh, every couple matches, I'll like level up, and then I'll get enough for a loot box, and then I'll open it and I'll get some cool costume or pose or whatever. And I like that I have that continual loop of satisfaction of getting new gear, getting new stuff. And of course with Overwatch, It's all cosmetic, and like EA does it in a way where like you can throw money at it until you're better at the game than everyone else, and that's clearly a problem. But I've also been playing Fortnite a lot too, and Fortnite definitely does it more where it's like, you're hitting these llamas, which are their loot boxes, and it's like a piñata, and you bust it open, fantastic. And all the stuff falls out. And there you're literally getting like maybe better guns, maybe better heroes, and it's actually stuff that makes you play better in the game, and that's still super fun. But it has to be designed correctly. It has to be in a game that's generally otherwise, free, and at least in the case of Fortnite, they give you enough along the way playing for free that I don't feel the need to then like throw buckets of money at it. And I think that's my deciding factor on loot boxes is, do I feel like I'm being severely hindered by not putting extra money in the game?
Yeah,
Right.
and that's
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, so I was where you kind of feel hindered because you didn't drop money in the game, or where they start to hide things that should be in the game or could be really fun. Of like, all right, I'm going to work for this exotic, weapon, or however they're going to end up labeling it, and it's going to require me to do like all of the different steps. And if you can like figure out what the steps are, that was always something that was really fun for me. Or it was like, if you wanted it done right now, maybe it wasn't really fun, but something to be in the background of like, all right, so I need to go kill 35 of this enemy. Do you guys want to go and do this real quick? Let me go do something else, and like slowly chip away at it.
Yeah.
Until it happens. And then there's like a little story with it of like, oh, I played, this strike with Scott, and he rained the mortar down and that saved us, and whatever. So you kind of get to have a little bit more of a structure there in how you got that weapon without it really them having to give any design thought to that experience. Like, just put the blocks there and we'll fill it in, versus like, oh, I got that from this box, I forget what I was doing.
And yeah, I mean, and Fortnite has the same thing where you can progress towards something where, you might get a lucky drop and have like an epic, weapon schematic, and you just might have it. Or maybe you got the really weak version of it, and then you leveled up through the skill tree and got the ability to upgrade the rarity of your weapons, and then you did that, and now you have the better version. But before you did that, you had to collect a bunch of resources to be able to do it, because it required a bunch of resources. And then you can kind of like, okay, I didn't get the cool drop I wanted, but I can sort of figure out the path to get there, and I know kind of the progress I'm making as I go. And that's nice, yeah. But yeah, I think in general, just the loot boxes for the sake of loot boxes, the idea that you can just pay your way through portions of the game is terrible. And they need to figure that out quickly.
Yeah, hopefully they will. Sorry, I was just gonna, I guess maybe saying it a different way, but probably similarly to what's already been out there. One thing that did strike me too is the Warframe as an example of, there's a game and a community, and granted it's a free-to-play, so it's a little bit different scenario, but it's not a game that people talk about, with this vitriol and anger towards loot boxes. I have yet to hear Warframe thrown into those stories or into those forum posts, and I think it's partly that they have figured out, the developer has maybe figured out a better balance. The things that I hear about the way progression works, and I've dabbled just a little bit, not very much, but just the idea that if you don't want to buy loot boxes, you still feel rewarded for the time you put in.
Yeah.
As opposed to having the feeling of the only way to really progress through the game is to pay more money.
And that was the big problem with Battlefront 2, I think, was that people were looking at it and like, okay, if I want Darth Vader, I'm putting in like, 40, 50, 60 hours of work in the game. And that felt like it just a ridiculous impediment roadblock,
Right.
And yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
So I think success of Anthem is going to hinge on those major facets and how they choose to incorporate them or not.
Yep, I definitely agree.
So, because the rest of the community is having a discussion that is evolving around that, and if EA is going to stay in their lane and not take any of that into account, especially with just the fallout that's happened in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, then they're in for big trouble if they unveil this thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. If this thing comes
they
out,
haven't, and they've been deaf to. Surely not, though, right? Like, surely the company is talking amongst its studios, but still, like, listen to the Fortnite comments and listen to the Destiny comments, and Like, what is Overwatch doing well? Why can Overwatch get away with it?
Yeah.
I personally think it's because it's a multiplayer only, and there's not all of these other elements. Like, you're not supposed to go questing throughout the world and like slaying dragons and saving people as Overwatch. No, like, I just want a really flippin' sweet Lucio skin. So give me that, and then it'll make my guy look cool, and we'll do the exact same thing, just like Titanfall or any of those multiplayer only games.
Yeah, if Anthem, like, if its full design sort of becomes apparent, if it comes out and turns out that they were just like completely tone deaf to all of the stuff that people got mad at them about with Battlefront, it's gonna be real bad. It's gonna be the same thing all over again. I hope that they realize that.
I want a game like that. Like, I want a game that scratches that itch of like World of Warcraft, Destiny combo, or Knights of the Old Republic, World of Warcraft mix. But we'll see what happens. Because as much as I do enjoy being a hermit and not playing with you guys, I do also enjoy playing with you guys.
Yeah, it's nice to do both. Yeah.
So, and as speaking, if it's okay to transition, my transitions are
please
super subtle, guys.
It's good to ask about them, I think,
subtle.
first. Yeah.
I do. I think that's the best way to approach it. And if we can get a quorum and we'll hold a hearing for the transition, and then we'll be able to move on with
definitely.
the episode.
But we need the committee. We need the committee discussion prior to any.
That'd be great.
Let's just table this for a future discussion. Yeah.
Got it.
So sorry we lose you listeners on a bi-weekly basis. But one that just looks like silly good times, which the open beta comes out like next week after, is Sea of Thieves by Rare Studios.
Oh, I didn't realize that was going into open beta so soon.
Sea of Thieves is going into closed beta.
Oh, closed beta.
So you can put $5 down at your favorite, get one of the beta codes.
How are you guys? Are you guys excited about this game? What's your general feel? Okay.
I've been practicing my pirate voice. It's not very good.
No, it's a good start.
But
I like it. Yeah.
I feel like the alcohol consumed in game as well as in my living room will certainly add to the authenticity.
Seems fair.
Yeah, I'm super. I think it'll be fun. I think it could totally bomb, and they could totally miss the boat. No pun intended. But I like Ross. I'm really the good times that I have playing video games with other people in games like Destiny or Division or Titanfall. This looks like a departure from just a shooter. Like, there are other things that we can do together, be able to adventure together. And I know, people who play MMOs and people who play other types of RPGs are kind of rolling their eyes, but those aren't arenas I've ever really gotten into. So this is a departure from the type of gaming that I do with friends previously.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm really looking forward to it, to have a job to do on a ship and to be able to hop off and run through an island looking for loot and to battle other players on the high seas. I think there's an opportunity here for that game. I think to grab an audience, and it'll depend on the quality, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's got potential.
Yeah, I am too. I hope that it is as good as it seems like it's going to be, because the concept of it is incredible, right? Like, you're manning a pirate ship, everyone has a job to do, you're sailing around battling other pirate ships, and you're like running around trying to hit the different posts and do your different jobs and stuff, and then meanwhile you're going off and getting treasure and following treasure maps and stuff. Like, there's just some really just smart, cool stuff going on in the game. I think the thing that has me the most worried about it is that Rare is developing it, because I don't know about their ability to make like a multiplayer game like this. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I trust them in game development completely. I hope that I can.
Battletoads? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, like, Rare has like, I feel like they haven't done much lately. First of all, they made some cool avatars for the Xbox, and other than that, I mean, what else have we done?
You're talking to the one guy who's played Viva Pinata and Viva Pinata 2, Trouble in Paradise.
And those games are cool. I mean, like,
for
yeah,
a bajillion hours.
that's fair. I mean, that's fair. I just don't know if like their talents have ever been applied to a game that was intended to be this type of like multiplayer experience. So we'll see how that goes. You know,
For sure.
I think it's it's got the potential there, and the flavor for me is going to come from just like Scott said, the stark contrast of other things that I've been playing.
Yeah,
where it's like, you know, yes, you're playing with other people, but you have like this very directed experience going through of like your rating or your, you know, doing strikes or playing competitive multiplayer. Of like, let's just wander around. Like, I found this map. I don't really know where it goes.
Let's just follow it.
Make sure the boat doesn't sink, all right? Or like, why is your dude drunk on the floor?
Yeah, I think the difference, the different type of gameplay, I think will also lend itself to there's only so many different kinds of surprises we're going to get in a shooter. You know, we've all played enough first person, third person to, the difference in guns and the scenery, and it's cool, and there's things to like out there, but I'm really looking forward to I have no idea how to steer a ship. I don't know which side is the port and which, you know, like I think the chaos that will ensue from all of us just trying to figure out what this game is and how it works. I'm hopeful that even by itself might be worth the throwing down.
That should be pretty fun.
The art style is in such a way that it looks a little cartoony, which is great. And so I don't think it should be taken super seriously, because in one of the little gameplays that I saw, it was like, oh, like, we need to get to that island over there before the other team, or for the other ship. And they were like racing. And what did they do? They shoved their buddy in a cannon that launched him.
Perfect.
To the island. I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want. I'm like, Scott, put John in the cannon. I think I'm going to swing by and we can see if we can get that chest before the other ship.
That's perfect.
Like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'm super excited about the art is incredible from what I've seen so far, and you know, not to keep bringing up Fortnite, just to, but that's part of the reason that I like Fortnite over something like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Yeah, right. So have you guys heard the good news about Fortnite? But you know, like honestly, like Sea of Thieves reminds me a lot about Fortnite's art style, and even though you're in there and it's this like brutal world and everyone's trying to murder you and you're on like Murder Island, it's like a fun little world to be in, because like everything's like fun and cutesy and there's a bomb that makes people dance, and that goes a really long way, and I think that'll also be true for this game. So yeah, definitely A+ on the art style so far. So that's definitely that one's on my list for sure. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see the footage from the beta, you know, see how that goes.
Yep. So I put down some money for the beta this weekend, so at least I'll be able to play that and be able to decide whether or not it was a good $5 week of my life.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
All right. Look, I'll hit some just some rapid fire ones that I'm excited about here that I wrote down. So Nintendo had a Direct Mini this past week and announced a couple games. They're doing a bunch more of like the Wii U ports over to the Switch, which are good because not a lot of people own Wii U's. So we're getting like Hyrule Warriors coming over, and we're getting Donkey Kong Country Tropical Breeze, which again I don't think anyone played, and it's supposedly a very good game. So we're getting that. We're also going to get a new Mario Tennis game, which I am stoked about, you guys. It's called Mario Tennis Aces, and like, first of all, I love tennis games in general. Like, tennis games are super fun because basically they're just like Pong but less abstract, and it's, you know, I've loved them since it's a Capcom. I think Capcom made it. Is an arcade game that has several different sports in it, and one of them is tennis, and it's a blast. I mean, I love tennis arcadey games, and Mario Tennis is fantastic. So I'm really excited about that. It'll have a story mode, which is new. We haven't had a story mode in a game like that since like the GBA. So that's cool to actually get a real story mode going on. They also announced this is the thing that I'm most excited about in gaming for this year. and you guys won't even know what it is.
No, I'm looking at the outline. I have no clue what's happening.
So they're porting The World Ends With You to the Switch. And The World Ends With You is a Square Enix RPG that came out on the DS, the original DS. And it's an RPG. It's set in modern day Shibuya, so like Tokyo, the Shibuya district of Tokyo. And it's kind of like the art style looks very Kingdom Hearts. Like that's definitely a lot of like where the inspiration comes from, but like way cooler. It's it's modern day, so it strikes that like it scratches that same itch that like Persona does, where you're figuring out like, oh, this is kind of what like modern day Tokyo is, and you have all the people into, kind of nerdy stuff, and you're in Shibuya especially, which is like the, where all like the like video game stores and stuff are in Japan. And the big thing about The World Ends With You, it's an RPG and it's a Square RPG, so it ticks all those boxes that you would expect from a Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts. But the cool thing about it was that its battle system took up both screens on the DS. So your upper screen was one character, and then your lower screen was a second character. And the lower screen you controlled with the stylus. So you would like swipe things around and swipe enemies and draw circles and stuff to command that character. And on the upper screen, you put in button combinations like it was a fighting game to control your character. So it might be like, up, left, 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 up, left, left, right. And like that would be like an attack that the character could do. And you had to do both at once. And it was weird and crazy and complicated and like super fun. It was like a skill that you could build and do it. And it's definitely like The World Ends With You is maybe my favorite DS game ever. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's fantastic. I love that game. They ported a version of it to the iPad, and that was just not the optimal way to play that game. Like it was fine, but it wasn't great. So now they're putting out a Switch version, and apparently it'll have touchscreen controls, so that'll still be there, but it'll also have like new controls designed for the Joy-Cons, so that's cool. So I'm just really excited to see like an updated, like nicer looking version of this game and to get to play it again. I'm so excited. So that's my little rant about The World Ends With You.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Thought just the Nintendo Direct Mini I thought was really smart. It's like the first everyone the IGNs and the game spots of the world, and they've all done their 2017 thing, and they all went on break, and they're all coming back, and now it's like setting the table for 2018. And hey, here's a thing that you can all talk about in this kind of deadish area after the new year, after the holidays.
It was perfectly timed, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They're also doing this was a game. It wasn't in the mini, but it's been announced for a while. Project Octopath Traveler. It's again a Square RPG, which I'm apparently very into right now. This game looks cool. So the concept of it definitely is very iffy. It could be amazing or it could be terrible. I'm not sure how it's going to work out. But basically there are 8 different playable characters. You pick which one you want to play as, you want to start as. And it sounds like you're going to get kind of a completely different game depending on who you pick, because each character has different abilities, and it's all an ability that interacts with an NPC. So like one guy, you can challenge any NPC you encounter to a fight, and you fight that character, and then you can get stronger from fighting them. And so he just runs around fighting everyone he finds. One character can like charm NPCs. One character can like essentially like in a Pokemon style can kind of capture NPCs and then summon them later in the middle of battle to come fight for you. So it seems like depending on who you pick, you have a different story and you do different things. And the art looks great. It's this kind of like 2D sprites on 3D backgrounds, so it's a really kind of like striking look to it. So it's a game I haven't heard a lot of people talk about. There was a demo that came out on the Switch, but I'm really excited about it. I think it looks really cool. So that's one that's on my list.
Nice.
Also in the Switch family, Kirby Star Allies just looks like some classic Kirby action. So that comes out in March. I don't think there's really much to say about it. It's like it looks like Kirby, that you can swallow up enemies. It has a multiplayer component to it, so you can play with your buddies. I'm not sure. I don't think that that's online. I think that is local only, but it looks really good. One of the Switch games that, again, I'm probably the only one excited about this, but Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes is the follow-up to the No More Heroes games. So No More Heroes were the weirdest games on the Wii. They starred Travis Touchdown. He had a lightsaber, and they were brutal and like disgustingly bloody and just freaking weird. Like I can't even describe how weird these games were. And we're actually getting a follow-up to those on the Switch, which I'm beyond excited about. The trailer for this game for Travis Strikes Again looks super bizarre. Travis Touchdown in the game is like really into like creepy anime, like the like body pillow anime type stuff, and he's also into like wrestling, so he does like wrestling moves that you can learn. It's just really, really strange. The game is developed by Suda51, who is like a self-proclaimed like punk rock game developer. So he's done a bunch of really strange games. If you've seen like Let It Die on PS4 or Shadows of the Damned on Xbox 360, all the way back to like Killer 7 on like the PS2 GameCube era. They're all like really weird, really bizarre, like generally unplayable games for the most part. Like sometimes these games are so bad that like there's huge portions of them you just like, this is like not really a playable video game, but the spirit of them is so good that it's worth looking at. So that's going to be a really strange game that I'm going to be just like over the moon about when it comes out, I'm sure. I'm also excited about Mega Man 11 that got announced. I didn't realize it had been so long since Mega Man 10, but like I'm like weirdly excited about getting to play a Mega Man again, even though I'm terrible at them.
That was the takeaway I got. The heart of the Mega Man series. I think you had talked about it, Josh, maybe on one of your dailies, but just that idea that Mega Man was one of the first ones, like you fight a boss, you get a power, and you get to keep it. You get to use it again. It's not just like a one and done. And for me, especially, my forever struggle with platformers is I will check it out, but it'll be I'm a little nervous about not being past World 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the nice thing about it being Mega Man is you can kind of hit all the worlds, even if you can't beat any of them. You get to see them all. You can just bounce around. I played when they brought back Mega Man. It's like we're gonna make a new like 8-bit Mega Man, and that came out. That was 9 in this case. I played it. I liked it. It didn't hook me in the way where it's like I'm going to put hundreds of hours in this game and master it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think this game will either. But I'm at least interested in like pounding my head against it for a bit. I think I think that it's been long enough that I'm interested in just like getting murdered by a Mega Man game for a while. I also, speaking of games, I didn't realize how long it had been since they came out. Soul Calibur 6 is slated for this year. It's been apparently 6 years since Soul Calibur 5. I have no idea how it went that long between Soul Caliburs. But wow. Those are always fun. Like, I typically enjoy fighting games. I'm never competitive with them whatsoever, but I really love dabbling in them because I grew up like playing a ton of Street Fighter and again, just being a complete scrub the whole time. But I really love just playing fighting games, even if I'm just playing arcade mode offline. And Soul Calibur is super fun, the entire Soul Calibur series, because they're very approachable games. So you can kind of just get in there and button mash and swing your sword, and it's very fun. And they usually, at least the later ones, have really good customization options where you can like change what your character looks like and what sword he has and stuff. And that's a blast to like unlock all that stuff. And they're usually a good time, even if you're not like going to be super competitive, which is what I'm typically looking for in a fighting game. And then finally in the fighting game camp, we have Dragon Ball Fighters with the Z, I think is how they want that pronounced. I thought it was Dragon Ball Fighter Z for a long time, but I think it's literally Dragon Ball Fighters. But that game looks incredible. I'm not sure if you guys have seen any footage of that game.
It looks amazing. Like I am not a fighting game guy. I mean, the last one I really sunk my heart and soul into was Mortal Kombat 2. But that game just like the gameplay footage, the actual in-game, not the cutscenes, not the it looks like it looks like an episode of Dragon Ball. Like it looks really, really cool.
It 100% looks like you are just straight up watching Dragon Ball Z. It's incredible how far we've come as far as gameplay goes. So that's a game that is being, I believe, developed by like Arc System Works. It's the people who make like the Blaze Blue stuff. I might be wrong about that. It might be imagining that, but it's definitely like one of those like anime inspired games that are the like Blaze Blue type games, which unfortunately those are usually the hardest to get into fighting games. Like they have the most systems at play. They require the most like minute timing. They require the most like twitch reflexes and stuff. So I don't think this is going to be a game that I'm going to be able to compete at any level whatsoever. But gosh, if it's not going to look amazing to actually play it.
I do wonder too, like with the frame rates and just the visual of it. But I could see a scenario where this could become a highly regarded or watched game on a platform like Twitch.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
yeah.
I would really, I think more than any other type of fighting game, I think I could get into someone who is really good at a couple of different players and just watching matches. I hope that's a thing. I hope that it becomes a thing, because that would be fun.
Yeah, I hope that like this game specifically makes it into like Evo and that type of stuff, just so we can see just ridiculously high level play, because I'm sure it's gonna look incredible. It's just gonna be just complete nonsense. And I think that's my general list of like weird, crazy games. There's a game called Griftlands that's coming out that I don't really know much about, but it looks amazing. It's going to be on the PS4. It looks like a general like turn-based RPG like you would expect, but it's kind of a post-apocalyptic kind of a setting, and the art is just incredible. Like it looks like you're watching again just like a cartoon or something in the turn-based battles. So that looks exciting. It'll be out soon. But like again, don't know too much about it. And are there any other games we've missed that we haven't touched on? I think we've hit a lot of them here.
I had a couple that I just wanted to name real quick.
Definitely.
Thinking about the coming in 2018, I had a really long list, and then it shrunk down to what games would I actually put money into.
Sure.
And so, just real quick, God of War. It's been a while since we've had one of those, and that looks really, really cool. I like the meme of Dad of War that's come out because of the story. That he's got a son, and so I think there's going to be some storytelling aspects of the game that I'm really going to get into.
So I've never gotten into any of the God of War games. Like I've never really played them, but this one has me excited because of the whole like dad stuff going on, and the storyline and the stuff I've seen so far looks really good. So I'm most excited about this one than I ever have been on one before.
Yeah, I've never gotten into the series either, but I think it's going to be a little bit up my alley. The action RPG, just the swinging my weapon around and killing a massive number of whatevers, I think looks really fun. And I think that the art of this one is going to be pretty cool. Crackdown 3, maybe. Finally is gonna come out after I think that it's been pushed back so many times now that I don't know if that means it's in such a terrible place that it may never come out, or they really, really want it to be good, and so they really aren't going to release it until it's ready. I mean, the release of the Xbox One X seemed like it would have been the perfect moment, and they passed that date, and so to push it past that, I'm hoping for the second scenario of, all right, it just isn't ready, let's make sure it's ready before we toss it out there. The idea of being able to play a multiplayer where the environment is really a part of the game and not just the place you're playing the game, I think sounds really cool.
I certainly hope that that's good. I don't have the highest of hopes from things I've seen, and like the pushbacks and stuff. But fingers crossed. We'll see.
We'll see. The last night, I was talking about when we were talking about Spider-Man, things that have stuck with me since E3, and I think the last night is one that really, it's being put out by a studio called Odd Tales. I don't really know anything about this game other than it kind of looks like it's got some platforming in it, but just the pixelated art style and this kind of grungy Blade Runner neon. I don't know the best words to describe it. I hope people will go out there and at least Google it and check it out. But it looks really different, and I could really see myself, if it's a good story, getting into a game like that.
It was definitely like one of the standouts of E3 for sure. Like that game just looked incredible, blew everyone away.
And Ni no Kuni 2. Until the first Ni no Kuni, I had never played a JRPG, and the list I've played is still very small. And I actually picked up the PS3 game because of the trailer that I saw for Ni no Kuni 2 back last year. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to know what this is all about.
Nice.
And so I finally took the plunge, and it wasn't as, I don't know, I've just never, I really, the action RPG has always been my jam, and the idea of having to sit and wait to take a turn has always seemed a little strange, but I really did get into Ni no Kuni, and so I think the second one looks amazing. I love Studio Ghibli, and the idea that I could play a game that looks just like a movie, just like a Ghibli movie, I think would be super fun.
Yeah, the game, like art wise, looks fantastic. I unfortunately didn't ever play the first one, but it was one that was like kind of always on my list, and I never actually circled back around and played it.
It's really good. It's hard to find. I'll send it to you if you want.
I mean, maybe. I'm trying to think, like, that sounds fun. I'm like, do I have time to play?
Exactly.
I didn't realize that had become hard to find either. But the second one looks super, super fantastic, and I remember always hearing really good things about the first one. So,
and the last one for me, Metro Exodus. I'm trying to get into, now that I have a PC. I have recently downloaded Dishonored for like $2 off of Steam.
Nice.
Just to try and force myself into learning how to mouse and keyboard, and so far I am terrible. I can't sneak past anyone. I've been killed so many times, but I'm making myself get in there and do it. And I think Metro Exodus would be a fun game.
Have you played
the series? Okay. I haven't, but the idea that the entire series has been underground, and now suddenly you finally get to come up and see what the nuclear wasteland is like, sounds really fun. The trailer's cool, and as being a huge fan of Snowpiercer, getting to hop on a dystopian train, I think by itself is going to be super cool.
It warms my heart hearing you say that you're a big fan of Snowpiercer.
Me too. I did not know this, and I'm super happy right now.
Oh my gosh, little gelatin bug bars.
So I'm in a spot where I haven't played any of the Metro games, but I did buy Metro 2033 and 2034, I think are the actual numbers. The books themselves, just to read the novels. I haven't started them yet, but I own them both to check those out. So that might be what I do on vacation.
It's pretty much the same thing. You own them, and then you can say you've read them.
Right. They're on the shelf. Clearly, these are things that I am into because they're on my bookshelf. That's just how that works. All right. So let's...
one to pick up right before we take off, because we had talked about it previously, was I wanted to know if Way Out had... it was really going to come out this year. It's that split screen, that permanently split screen jailbreak movie. Video game.
It looks incredible. I think it's supposed to come out this year.
It's supposed to, yeah. I think so.
And it seems like a really unique concept that I want to know if it could be pulled off, because I think if you had the right person to play it with, it could be really fun.
Yeah, it's supposed to be March 23rd. So, not too long. Yeah, it looks like a game that would be super fun to play with someone that you know. Like, that's going to be the thing is, hopefully it's still fun, well, I mean,
it seems like you get trolled if you didn't know the person.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, like this is a game that doesn't have a single player at all. Like it's either, you're playing with somebody or you're not playing at all, which I think is a really bold direction for a game. But everything I've seen about this game, I adore. Like the split screen, the like doing something differently from your partner, but you're both working towards the same goal. The like awesome way that they do like the dynamic split screen. So sometimes they'll like, very like cinematically give one person more room on the screen. There's a lot in that game that seems like it's going to get stolen by other games, in like subsequent years. But yeah, hopefully that game's awesome.
Okay. I'm good now. Wanted to make sure because I had skipped over that one.
So let's jump into movies for a bit. Unfortunately, we're just gonna have to like blaze through some of these. So we can touch on these in future episodes if we wanna talk more. But let's just start throwing titles out basically here. So one on my list because I was so into Justice League, I'm excited to see Aquaman because Jason freaking Momoa was like the best part of Justice League. So yes, just give me more of him. Just let him say more. Just mean like beefcake things to people. Let him swim around in the oceans. Sign me up.
The beard and the hair. Just let him be.
Right.
Let him be Jason Momoa.
There's a movie called Braven coming out starring him, and it looks like just a straight ahead action movie. Where two guys are in a cabin in the woods. These drug people have hidden drugs in this cabin unbeknownst to them, and it becomes this like fight, this like shootout for their lives. And at one point, like Jason Momoa like throws a tomahawk, like a hatchet, at somebody's head, and I'm like, show me no more. Like I just need to go see this movie. That's all you need to say.
Have you watched Frontier with him in it?
I have not. No,
because it's a Netflix series.
Ooh, okay.
It's not. The story is kind of weird and not great, but like Jason Momoa, and he's a frontiersman badass.
Okay, yep, that's all I need to know. Yep. Sounds good. Yep.
When you're like, oh yeah, he's throwing a hatchet, I was like, oh, it seems like he learned something for a role and wanted to do it again.
Oh man, I really hope that the reason that hatchet is in Braven is because he was just like, I can do this. Like I'm really good at throwing hatchets.
I don't know if you're aware. First team All State.
Yeah, pretty good at throwing hatchets.
Could make it rain here.
Yeah, so I'm super stoked about Aquaman. That's definitely on my list. What about you, Ross? You got some stuff?
Coming up, I'm super stoked for the Black Panther movie.
Yeah,
it's like coming out in 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
like
February. It is sneaking up for sure. It looks good.
I like the premise. I've done a decent job of staying away from any of the websites and things. I've just seen trailers when I happen to go to movies in the theater. Like it was there was a Black Panther preview prior to The Last Jedi.
Yep.
And I like it. I like the whole. From the outside, it looks like modern day Africa, and then they go somehow into another world, and everything is trippy. And I just love everything about this movie. Give me more Black Panther.
Most definitely, yeah. Like I love to, I like going into a superhero movie not knowing as much about the hero either. Like I'm familiar with Black Panther, of course. But like I haven't really ever read any of his like solo books when those have happened here and there. I mainly am just like aware of him like tangentially to like the Avengers or whatever. And I know that he married Storm for a while and like little bits and pieces. But I'm excited to like really do like the deep dive on just like Wakanda and stuff. I think that'll be really sweet.
Yeah, it looks super good. I'm looking forward to that one. One that I am anticipating, Ready Player One. I think that was on your list as well, Josh.
It is, yeah.
And I'm sure you've talked about it before on your dailies. Yeah, it's gonna be. I've read the book multiple times.
Okay.
And the thing about that movie, I think for me is I'm gonna have to try to separate the two. You know,
Right.
the movie that I have played in my mind is amazing, and that's not what's gonna be on screen. And if I can just make sure that message gets through before I walk into the theater, if I can really own that and believe it, this is going to be its own story. This is a story that Steven Spielberg and Ernest Cline have worked on to put up on the screen, and that it's not going to be the book exactly. I think other than that, it looks really cool.
It definitely does seem far different than the book. Like everything that they've shown in the trailer so far it seems like they're making a slightly different thing for sure.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was a book.
Oh yeah, you need to read the book.
It's a really good book.
You need to read the book.
Try to learn how to read again.
For fun. Even.
Yeah, for fun, not for work. Boring documents.
Yeah, the book is fantastic, and the movie, again, it's one of those things where you're like, you really, oh man, I hope it's good. I hope it's so good. But there's already stuff in the trailer that's not in the book. Like there's the whole car chase, like ridiculousness, and it seems like they're going way more over the top in the movie than with the book, which is probably necessary. You know, like so much of the book is just sort of exposition, like explaining things about the world, and the movie necessarily can't be that. They have to show you. So, you know, I definitely trust Spielberg and stuff. I think that there's enough hype around this movie that I think it'll be good. I'm excited. You know,
I think it'll be good. The one thing that I can't help thinking too is with as big a push as PSVR was in 2016, the HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift, the success of Resident Evil 7 in VR. It felt like there was this big VR push going into 2017, and then it didn't. I don't know. It just turned into shooters and racing games, and 2017 was kind of quiet. And it feels like this is a little bit of a missed opportunity. Like here is a movie with a real sci-fi fan base already built in, and you know, to have a developer work in tandem with this movie release, or you know, maybe not even at the exact same time, but in the same time, for, you know, same quarter, same year, to have, you know, the egg hunt in VR, you know, on your game called The Oasis, or I don't know. I mean, I just seems like there was an opportunity here for folks to do something cool.
I think my problem with that would be that it would never live up to, like, again, like the thing that I'd imagined, like just like you said.
We're like 10 years away from it.
We are
the game that it would need to be, but
because you would want it to be like, you know, it's hidden somewhere, like not the same places as in the book, but like then you'd have to like do your investigation, and you want to be able to have like, you know, hundreds of thousands of places to travel to and like see them all, and I would want it to be so much bigger of a world than it would end up having to be, you know.
Well, some studio someday is gonna have to come back and
I agree.
Make the game that I
want. We also have the Han Solo movie that's coming out this year.
Yeah, and I saw that it's coming out in May.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I think that's right. Yeah.
So doesn't that break the... So I thought it was going to take the place of like the Rogue One, right? I thought it was going to be December is now and forevermore the Star Wars month, and so it was, you know, The Force Awakens, Rogue One, you know, it would be a franchise movie and then a solo movie and then a franchise movie and then a solo movie. Is that not happening anymore?
I guess not. It's coming out in May, apparently, if it doesn't get pushed.
That was super surprising. It's coming out Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
It seems.
I mean, you know, I think they're for sure, of course, alternating years, but yeah, I guess they're not sticking as strictly to, like, we always put them out in December.
So, I mean, give me more Donald Glover, so I'm down.
And there was, if I remember right, I think it's been talked about a little bit too, that there's been some problems or issues with that movie as well, right?
Yeah, they switched directors. So the original duo, which were the same team that did like 21 Jump Street, those guys got fired, just straight up fired, and got replaced by Ron Howard. So
they may be off their timing a little bit too, because the movies come together.
Yeah. I mean, that'll be an interesting movie to see because Lord and Miller got fired. That, like, what did that movie become? Is there some weird remnant where, like, parts of it are like super jokey, and then they had to like sort of reel that back in or something? Because that was always my understanding, or like my guess as to why those guys got dropped, was they were trying to tell their, like, ironic, jokey tale in Star Wars, and then the people that be at Star Wars were like, no, what are you doing? No, we can't do this. This is Guardians of the Galaxy territory. This is not Star Wars territory. That was my guess, but it'll be interesting to see what then, like, the ultimate movie looks like because of that big shakeup.
Yeah,
I'm definitely, like, I'm excited about it. My love of Donald Glover, I think, is well documented. I
think in multiple arenas.
He is the best ever. He's the best rapper. he's fantastic in television programs. He's fantastic at writing,
directing, acting.
Right. He is the quadruple threat. So I have a ridiculous man crush on Donald Glover. I'm stoked for Atlanta season 2 from him coming out very soon. So him as Lando Calrissian is gonna blow my mind. I'm so excited. It's gonna be great. I don't even care anything else about the rest of the movie. If the Lando scenes are awesome, that's all I need.
If they don't mess up Chewie and they don't mess up Lando,
right? I'm sold.
Because they would be smart to steer away from making it about Han Solo. Because if it's not Harrison Ford, no one's going to care. And you're not going to make Harrison Ford travel back in time.
Right. It's going to be that's going to be a very uphill battle for them, I think, to make you believe someone else is Han Solo. That's going to be rough.
I think so. It'll be interesting to see how they pull it off.
Yeah, I think so.
But the next big one for me, anyway, that I have a super guilty pleasure for is giant frigging robots fighting giant frigging monsters. And John Boyega is actually going to get some worthwhile screen time, I hope. Because we're going to follow up Idris Elba's very stern performance with John Boyega, who I think is probably descendant in some way. I've tried to steer clear of this movie because I knew nothing about Pacific Rim rolling into it. And so the second one, I just want to roll into it knowing giant robots and giant monsters.
So, not to spoil anything for you, but I'm fairly certain that John Boyega's character is the son of Idris Elba's character.
Nice.
I think that's the setup. Like Pacific Rim is the ultimate movie that you have to know what you're getting in for when you go into it. Like, if you go in expecting high art cinema, you are in the wrong place. But if you go in thinking it's really cool when giant robots hit giant monsters, then man, you're in the right place. You signed up.
Like right up my alley for that.
Right.
I don't really go to. I have to think sometimes during the day, and I don't want to do that at the.
It's really the worst. Yeah,
I tend to avoid some of the more artsy movies for that reason. Where like I just want to see things blow up or happy endings of some sort. That would be great.
Yeah, my tastes are well documented in that I definitely skew much more towards the Pacific Rim side than I don't know I can't even think of like what is like a stereotypical artsy movie. But yeah, that's not for me.
The Fault in Our Stars. I haven't seen that one. I hear it's really good, and I support people that see it.
I saw it. Terrible movie. Bad movie.
Oh, really?
Well, and so the thing about Pacific Rim, the first one being done by Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
Pan's Labyrinth, I think, could probably be considered a pretty artsy movie.
Sure.
And it was great. It was really fantasy and out there. And so I've really enjoyed his movies. And the fact that he isn't involved in this one makes me a little nervous.
Sure.
But I'm still hopeful that they can still nail the robots versus monsters.
Well, the first movie was definitely like they knew they were making a like kaiju Gundam style anime, just live action, right? Like they knew the exact tone they were going for with that, and I I'm sure was probably pretty scary. Like some of the things like they were having actors do, of just like, is this gonna work? Like this is really odd, but it was the tone that they were setting out for. So hopefully there are people with this one that understand that still and know the tone they should be shooting for. And we haven't seen enough to really know thus far, but fingers crossed. Yeah, hopefully it's amazing.
For sure.
Also on my list of things I'm super super stoked for, Avengers: Infinity War. We finally get the beginning of the end, sort of, for the whole, Thanos is here and all the gems, all the stones, and this massive, huge battle we've been building up for like 19 some movies.
It's
I like that
ridiculous.
everyone got like exactly 2 seconds in the trailer. Like,
yes.
Okay, we got to make sure you got to get your little checkbox list out. Like, oh yeah, got that one, and yeah, Black Panther, and
I got Avengers bingo, nailed it.
Avengers bingo. I was reading some speculation, some information about Avengers 4, which is the next Avengers film that's coming out. They just wrapped filming. And originally that movie was supposed to be Infinity War Part 2, like literally called Infinity War Part 2. And then they reeled that back in and said, okay, it's not just the continuation of Infinity War. And so everybody was wondering like, oh, what's going on? Is it a new villain? What's happening? And their wrap cake, where they just finished filming Avengers 4, has Thanos massive standing on top of the cake. So it's definitely a movie still featuring Thanos. So it seems like that Infinity War, the one we're getting this year, is the beginning of the battle, and then Avengers 4 is going to be like, everyone was defeated in the last movie. Now we have to actually figure out how to beat the guy. So it'll be kind of Avengers like dark middle chapter is what it seems like it's shaping up to be. But I'm stoked. I love where we've come and where we've gotten to with these Marvel movies. It is ridiculous and so exciting that they've been able to world build this effectively and this long in film. Like, it's fantastic. And then on the flip side of that, we have Deadpool 2.
Now a Disney property. So
now a Disney property.
That'll be interesting.
Really excited for this. I don't know what to expect, but I know it's going to be more hilarity.
So the first one was super enjoyable, and the second one, like, if they keep all of their greasy mitts off of it and just let that movie do what it does best, it'll be fine. If people start trying to be like, oh, it really needs to be kid friendly, like, no, it doesn't.
That's the whole point. Yeah.
It's the entire point of Deadpool.
I think they should be able to get that. There's a reason that it was the most popular superhero movie of that time. I mean, I think that, yeah, I'm confident that they figured out that it really was the messaging of that movie and made.
Hugh Jackman didn't need to be in it, but they still made the movie.
Hugh Jackman does not need to be in Deadpool 2.
Maybe let him go out on top.
I really hope, I really hope that Disney understands buying Fox that there's a lot of stuff they just need to like leave alone. It was working. Just let it keep going. It's fine. You own it now. You're going to get some portion of the revenue. Just leave things alone. And I think that's generally what they've been doing so far. So I hope that continues to be par for the course with what we get with this purchase. But who knows? One more on my list that I wrote down that, again, we talked about me loving big, giant, stupid movies. I don't think we're going to get a bigger, dumber, stupider movie this year than Rampage.
Which is great, because at the in one of the versions of one of the prompts was, what is a retro game that you remember playing first? Yeah. And definitely Rampage is one of the first ones I remember playing at a buddy's house on the NES. It's just like, yeah, you're this. I'm gonna be King Kong. You're gonna be this giant lizard. I'm just gonna eat this building. Like, okay,
sure,
cool, great.
I just love that they're making it into kind of like not a serious movie, but like a movie where it's like, you know, you're gonna feel bad for the giant rampage gorilla, you know, like, yeah, all right,
Yeah.
cool, sign me up. He's a tragic character. Let's do this.
Voiced by Mark Ruffalo.
And just anything with The Rock in it, I'm basically just on board instantly. I still haven't seen Jumanji yet. I'm so sad because I wanted to see it so bad.
Jumanji is shaking the foundation that is my Rock.
I'm on board
And
for
like, I just don't know if I can do it. Like, Jumanji is a movie that is best left in the past.
I mean, like, I don't have the reverence for Jumanji I think that a lot of people do. Like, I like the original Jumanji a ton, but I don't care that they remade it. I mean, it's fine.
It was one where I enjoyed it at the time. I have tried to watch Jumanji again. No.
Oh, it doesn't hold up?
It does not hold up for me.
Okay.
I enjoy the memory that I have of Jumanji, which is like the, you know, way before any of the internet streaming services and any of that. So like, my dad and I went to the video store where they had just the boxes, and you picked up the tag, and you went and like gave the clerk the tag, and they opened that giant ass drawer of movies and like found the one and gave it to you. That's the reason I like Jumanji, because we didn't go to the video store very often.
So it was a special video store treat to go get
it
to
was
see.
A video store treat.
I think Rampage and Jumanji both kind of, it makes me curious, like there must be some kind of crazy rubric as far as like movie executives, like how do you decide which types of IP get carried forward, you know, reaching back into the, like there must be certain criteria that have to be met, but I just can't imagine what any of some of these have. Like who looks back at the video game of Rampage and says, you know what? We need to make a movie of that. And we need to have The Rock in it. Like, how did you get there? Like, how does...
Yeah, I was going to bring up Battleship, like Ross said. I mean, like nothing seems crazy until, like, I mean, like, if I tell you, like, they made a Battleship movie and put Rihanna in it, that's all, like, that's the bar. That's the bar we're setting.
It's pretty low. All of a sudden, giant monsters seem like it's going to make sense.
Right. Like, at least Rampage, it's like, no, I see the, like, A to B to C there. Like, I see where you get the plot. Like, Battleship is like what? Battleship, not only did they make a movie and put Rihanna in it, they also made it about aliens for some reason. That's not what Battleship's about. And Battleship's not about anything. That's, yeah. I'm waiting for the Pac-Man adaptation. That's what I want. I want the live-action serious Pac-Man adaptation.
Serious Pac-Man. Yeah. Dude's just eating too many ghosts.
I imagine at this point in all the studios, there's just some intern somewhere whose sole job is to type things from 1980s into Google and just see what pops up, and then figure out who owns the rights to those things. And like, I imagine
which heartstrings can we tug on next?
Right? Yeah. I feel
like if you do Pac-Man live action, like it's got to be sort of Danny Glover's character from Lethal Weapon.
Okay, yep, go on.
Of like rundown. For some reason, I just picture Pac-Man as like a rundown cop who just really wants to retire, a greasy wife beater, shirt on with the leather holster that's always unbuckled. Like, no trigger safety for that guy.
So it's just Pac-Man, like, walking down a corridor. He turns the corner, he sees pellets in front of him, and he's just like, I'm getting too old for this. And he just starts eating them.
Pretty much. It's like, the dude is done. He just wants to be done as an IP. And that's just what I think of when I think of Pac-Man.
He goes home, and Mrs. Pac-Man just won't let him up. Just like,
she's got a vibrant career. She's out doing her thing. CEO. She looks all posh and like, not him.
He's just washed up.
Yeah, he's washed out. She divorced him a long time ago. Everybody knows it.
I'm into it. I can buy it.
Thanks for letting me go down that rabbit hole.
I definitely imagine that with most of these things that happen, it's not so much that they decided like this is the one. It's more that like we threw like 1,000 spaghetti strands on the wall, and this is the one that stuck because it was the one where we were able to get the rights, and it's the one where finally like someone wrote a good script for it, and like eventually like it just sort of all the pieces fell together. I imagine they were trying for like 10,000 other retro properties to revive all at the same time, and we just get them sort of one by one.
2020, we're gonna get Duck Hunter.
That doesn't sound like the most far fetched thing. I mean, again,
No.
if we can get Battleship, if we can get Rampage, like nothing is off the
Hunter
table.
seems pretty tame. It's true.
Yeah, Duck Hunter would be fine. Like it would just be like, someone goes out in the woods
Like Old Yeller.
with their dog and hunts ducks. I'm not sure where you get 3 acts out of that, but they'd figure it out. They'd get the job done. What if you just merged Duck Hunter with Mario, because it always came on the same cartridge. What if you just did the movie where a guy goes hunting with his dog and then falls down the pipe and is in the Mushroom Kingdom now? It's great. And then you also do the track and field where you get the tri-cart. So at some point he just runs like a 200-yard race for some reason. That's what we do.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
We just
We
do
need
the
to copyright
multi-cart.
that as soon as we can.
Oh man. Scott, any other movies from you that you're looking forward to?
Just 2 that are kind of sticking out in my brain. One is Annihilation. It's based on a novel by Jeff Vandermeer from 2014, starring Natalie Portman. I have some feelings about this book. I really enjoyed the book, and so I am at the same time excited and elated by what I see in the trailer, and then also nervous. I see a lot of love story elements and monsters, and I don't really feel like that's the heart of the book, so I will definitely be reporting back. But the visuals of that, what I've seen in the trailer so far, look really cool, and so I'm hopeful, apprehensive, all kinds of feelings about
So
that one.
this is the movie where there's like the wall of like sort of colory, shimmery stuff that then they like walk through and like kind of hunt out what's going on, and there's crazy creatures and stuff, right? It's that movie.
Yeah, and I think not to I don't think it'll give too much away, but just the heart of that book, or the things that I really took away from it that really enjoyed, was the idea that the end of the world, it's not going to be this huge alien invasion that everyone sees dropping out of the sky. It's not going to be, the natural disasters that occur over the course of a week. It's going to be this weird thing that nobody can explain. There's this occurrence. They don't even know what to call it in the book. They call it all Area X, and it's everything they send in, nothing comes out.
Oh.
And there's no message. We can't get any information. There's the end of the world isn't going to be this all of a sudden huge. It's going to be this thing that just steadily grows that we don't have an answer for and can't get information on. And so it's that unknowing, and there's just this sense of dread throughout the whole story that I've really enjoyed and hope gets translated onto the big screen.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't even realize that it was based on a book, so I'm definitely putting that on my list now of again, things to read on vacation. Because the trailer for it looked fantastic. Like, I was really intrigued by what was happening in the trailer, because, there definitely seems like there's way more to it, and they're going for a different tone than a lot of these films would be, so it seemed very intriguing from what little I'd seen.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. And then the other title that's kind of been kind of beckoning to me, Alita Battle Angel.
Okay.
Looks like after I saw that trailer, I thought back to what Ross said in the last episode about wanting to have that thing that you then dive into the lore and the source material of.
Sure.
And I've never been a huge manga guy, but just from what I've seen in this trailer makes me curious about. I think that the trailer shows you a lot, but doesn't really explain anything. And so I want to know, who is this person? What are these characters? Where do they live? What's their relationship to each other? I see some really cool CGI and some animation. I don't know. It's like the way that they've smashed the real world and effects together looks really cool. So I think I'm going to be checking out the manga series created by Yukito Kishiro.
Nice.
Back from 1990. So I'm going to check that out and hope that the movie does some cool stuff.
This is not a movie or manga that I've actually heard about, so this is very, very interesting. It looks cool. Yeah, it looks real cool.
Yeah. Those are my 2.
Nice. Awesome. Well, we'll probably stop there then. I know we've got a couple things written down for other mediums outside of games and movies. We'll touch on those on the next episode, just so we don't record a 3-hour episode here.
That's good.
So yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap that up. So we'll be back again in 2 weeks for another episode. In the meantime, make sure you're checking out the daily episodes of Pretty Dece as those come out. You can find those on the YouTube's channel. Just search for Pretty Dece on YouTube, or Facebook, facebook.com/PrettyDeceShow, or by just visiting PrettyDeceShow.com. Nice listing there of all of the episodes as they happen. You can also follow Pretty Dece Show on Twitter at Pretty Dece Show. And you guys are also in various places on the internet. Scott, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Schmizmar9. That's at SCHMIZMAR9. And also streaming some games on Twitch. And that's twitch.tv/Schmizmar9, where we've been doing a little retro gaming. Just finished up Pikmin and dived into Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg recently. So some weird, random, older games.
You played some, Link's Awakening?
Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, yeah.
I saw some of that.
This is super fun.
And your general schedule is what, Saturday and Sunday mornings? That's your general?
Yeah. Yep. That's usually what, every once in a while we'll sprinkle in some weekday things, but mostly it's the weekend mornings.
Nice. Awesome. And Ross, how about you?
If you wanted to find me on Twitter, you can do that. And I don't have a schedule.
Ross, I think you cut out a little bit, so start from the top on your Twitter account.
So sorry. On Twitter, you can find me at LITU_87. Occasionally I stream on Twitch, but I'm not cool enough to have a schedule like Schmiz. So you can also find me there at LITU87. Yay, Twitch. That's something I would like to get more into, but until time frees up, it's just going to be catch as catch can.
Yep. Just a fun thing randomly. Yeah, I'm in the same boat of I need to figure out sort of at least one day a week that's just sort of streaming day, but that has not happened thus far. But definitely that's the plan, at least with some of these fun retro stuff and plugging things into the FrameMeister and all that fun business. So again, that's going to do it for us. Thank you very much for joining us. Check out PrettyDeceShow.com in the meantime. We'll be back in about 2 weeks for another episode, but thanks for everyone joining us. Peace.
I've had this dream, not like a I've been daydreaming about Jurassic World Evolution.
Okay.
The new Park Sim game that's supposed to be coming out.
All right.
Yes.
And thinking, so my first thought was do we really need another Park Sim game? We've got the crazy roller coaster one. We've got this is not a new. And then the thought occurred to me, can I put the raptor pen right next to the childcare center?
Oh, jeez.
and then just from there, it's just been the snowball to the point that this game will never live up to what I want it to be for me personally. I want to have so little security. I want almost zero security, and can we drape the child center in meat? Can I put the feeding station on the roof? And then right as the first fence fails, that's when I want to add the security. I want an elite level security team
where they just run in.
I just want to see how long it takes for the entire place to just devolve into the worst scenes in the movie series. Is how many people how many park goers die. I want to see I want the God view. I want to hear little screams coming from different parts of the park.
You essentially want Westworld, but with dinosaurs. That's really what you're inventing.
And I want that to be the win. I want it to be the win for me is, can I get that to last as long as possible? Can I get just enough security to fend off this one area? Meanwhile, the flank is totally failing, and yeah.
So multiple things. One, I don't think you can make a Jurassic Park sim, like park sim like this, and like the win condition or the doing good condition can't be just like parks running in tip top shape, right? Like that's never been the point of the movies ever.
No.
Like the
See,
win
my hope
condition
was that it would be co-op, so you could like turn somebody loose, and you are trying to mop up their mess of like they installed faulty wiring and they didn't make the raptor fences high enough.
Oh, that's
like
good,
you're going through and like trying to save the park by like erecting new like enclosures and buildings and trying to like head people off. And
I hope
you have X amount of resources. Like, how many do you save? As many people as do you have the high chance of saving a few people, or the low chance of saving more people? You know, what resources do you have, and how can the park director work against you? Like from above, I want the Samuel L. Jackson like in the corner. Hold on to your butts, like that's what I want.
I hope at the very least, if you put in like a raptor fence that's too low or something, like you there's the like Chris Pratt stand-in who walks by and it's just like, that's gonna be trouble. Like I hope someone like makes the reference to like, this is gonna be an issue.
I also really want that it's cheaper. Like I'm making money by making the raptor fence lower.
Right.
I want to see, like, I want to be able to. The win is to have the place devolve into complete chaos, and I want to walk away with just pockets full of money.
I hope that at some point, like if your park is too safe, people just stop coming because there's no fun in it.
There's no danger.
Yeah, it's like, come on, like I just know I'm gonna see like dinosaurs behind giant fences that they could never jump over. What's the point of even going? Like you have to add a little bit of danger just to get people interested.